What's going on, dudes and dudettes? Know it's been a while, but was trying to do this a couple days ago, but it was for some reason last Friday, and for a couple days after that, dealing with some vertigo, which I never really dealt with before, but apparently there's something wrong, an imbalance of something in my ears, and kind of sucked for a bit. Always feeling nauseous and just head spinning, lightheaded, but luckily I'm out of it and pretty much close to 100%, so I'm happy about that. But to get on to some USC football news, so they were able to get a commitment from a 4-star running back in Brandon Campbell out of Texas. They beat out teams like Alabama, Texas as well. So he was obviously pretty talented because a lot of the top teams in college were going after him. So I'm glad USC was able to get him, but they are going to be losing at least 2 scholarship guys after this season. So he saw some playing time, so might as well. But luckily he is a talented player that they were able to get. Then the linebacker for USC football, remember he committed a couple years ago, but for his religion or something like that, he went on a mission before coming to USC, which they granted him, and they still gave him a scholarship. So he's finally back. He returned back to USC this season and coming up, and he committed to them as well again. I don't know why people thought he wasn't going to come back to USC officially, but it's kind of good. That's why I like teams like BYU or Utah always look dominant, especially with their Polynesian players. So a lot of guys do this where they go on a mission for a year or two, and then they're already a year or two older than most of these guys in college already, and they're already like grown men. So, and he kind of looks already big too, like he stayed in shape and bulked up too. So even though he's considered a freshman, he definitely looks like a guy who's a junior or senior right now. Then Duke basketball, their transfer that I mentioned a week or two ago, Patrick Tate from Columbia, apparently he has decommitted because I think the NCAA has allowed the recruiting period to last until May because of all what's going on. Before it would already stop, so they wouldn't be able to go anywhere else. But yeah, so he's decided to open up his recruitment again. It really didn't matter because he was going to play a backup role for USC anyways, for Duke, and it looks like he wants to have some type of starting role, so I guess that's why he reopened it, but good luck to him. Then the Anaheim Ducks signed the entry-level goalie in Roman Durney. I forget if it's Miller or Gibson. They're going to be losing pretty soon just because of age, but yeah, I guess they have to try to find a goalie of the future, a replacement sometime soon. Then USC basketball made some news this week. They did sign a 4-star shooting guard for next year, Malik Thomas. Looks pretty talented. Hopefully he'll be talented when he comes to USC again. Hopefully no injuries. So congrats. Luckily we have him on our team now. And they added 2 more transfers, which is a forward in Chavez Goodwin from Wofford, who have been pretty good upsetting some teams during the regular season, especially North Carolina. They beat them twice in the past 2 or 3 years, so pretty sure he was a part of those teams. So good to have a veteran guy like that on the squad. And then they also added Isaiah White, a wing player from Utah Valley. Don't really know much about him, but I guess they're adding depth because they lost guys like Matthews, Rakosovic. They're losing Onyeka Okongwu, the freshman, to the draft. They already lost Sturdivant, remember I mentioned last week. So they have quite a few open spots, and I think they're losing that point guard Adlish as well, the transfer last year. So a lot of open spots for USC, and we'll see what they can do. Then for the Lakers, they announced after their kind of 2-week own quarantine of their own players or social distancing, they didn't really keep them in a facility, but they've seen that none of them have symptoms of the COVID-19, which is good. They still haven't released who had the COVID-19 before and got over it, but I guess that's whoever that person wants to, they can say it if they want to, but at least they're 100% full right now, the staff included as well, so that's good. Then a weird NBA bylaw 6.23 that was mentioned, that was going around a bit, was that since the Lakers have the best record since the All-Star break in February, best record out of the whole NBA, that they would be considered NBA champions if the season were to end officially and they weren't able to play games, which is kind of interesting. But I think after a couple months you could still get a lot of these, like do like a 4-team on each side playoff and get the 4 best records from each side and have them go at it in certain centralized areas like a Vegas or LA somewhere, just to have them all play and then decide a tournament winner out of that. But I don't think this bylaw would go into place just because everyone's going to be upset in Milwaukee because they've had the best record all year. But I mean, it'll be pretty cool, an easy victory for us. But yeah, I don't think the NBA is going to allow that to happen. Then for a bit of Chargers news end up, so they did sign a wide receiver in Darius Jennings from Tennessee. I believe he was used more as a kick returner because his stats past couple years over there aren't that great as a receiver. But I did see him do a lot of kick return, and pretty sure that's why the Chargers picked him up for that reason. So they still need a wide receiver at some point in this draft, and I'll be doing that at some point in the future. Then a lot of good news as far as the type of talent that they're looking at. They were looking at to have a scheduled meeting with Tristan Wirfs, who is my favorite offensive lineman, in the draft, to be able to select that high at the first round pick. So I'm happy they at least met with him. They also met with the Houston tackle Josh Jones, who is being more selected later in the draft. So like later in the first round. So maybe they would do like a trade back scenario, gain more picks if they wanted to get him. And they also looked at Dallas Warmack from Oregon, but he's a guard, so I assume they would get him later in the draft. And I mean, he was a once talented guy, went to Alabama but then transferred to Oregon. But yeah, just a guy you could pick up later in the draft, help you with the running game. But yeah, I don't see him filling out the left tackle spot. I think that's where they need to address before the season starts. And then they're also looking at a couple of guys that I like. Cornerback AJ Green from Oklahoma State. Usually Oklahoma State isn't a great place to find defensive players. Actually, the Big 12 isn't a great place to find defensive players, but I really like this guy. I like what I saw in his highlights, and he would be a great pick later in the draft. Hopefully they could get a guy like this later, a gem like that. Then they're also looking at linebacker Evan Weaver from Cal, who was like I think he had the most tackles last year out of all college football, and he was just insane. And he doesn't look like he can be a regular linebacker at the NFL level, but maybe he's an outside linebacker like a TJ Watt, someone like that. But I'm pretty sure they won't start him, but I really like what he can do. And it's, once again, somebody you pick up later in the draft. A guy you could maybe pick sooner in the mid-round draft is a linebacker like Logan Wilson out of Wyoming. He looks pretty talented as well. I would project him more like the 3rd to the 5th round where he would be selected. But yeah, at least they're looking at some talented players that I actually like. I will probably do a thing a week before the draft, which is in 3 weeks. So maybe in 2 weeks I'll do an official like top 3 out of the positions that the Chargers need, and then maybe a scenario mock draft of what they would do if they were to draft a certain guy at certain positions in a certain area of the draft. But yeah, we'll get to that when we get to it. But thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe, comment down below, let me know what y'all think. Stay safe out there. I don't know why they say don't touch your face, but I always wash my hands constantly anyways. But yeah, I don't touch my face really either. But yes, do all that. So practice social distancing. You could get over it. And yeah, we'll get through this sooner than later. Thanks for watching. Fight on.